Saturday's presidential National Assembly elections generally peaceful across the country. Nigerians now eagerly await results. A political expert says Nigerian voters want a powerful leadership to address urgent problems facing the nation. On the international scene, protests in Venezuela over humanitarian aid turned violent, 5 demonstrators killed. And in sports, FIFA strips Peru of 2019 Under-17 World Cup hosting rights.
News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Contrary to some predictions of low voter turnout, Nigerians tripped out in large numbers on Saturday to cast their ballots in the presidential and National Assembly elections. The election was peaceful across the country, but violence flared up in some areas of Bayelsa, Rivers and Lagos states where some Nigerians were killed, some for electoral offences like burning ballot materials. Nigerians are now eagerly awaiting the results. Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, Controller General of the Nigeria Customs Service, and other important figures at the National Collation Center in Abuja, where the collation exercise began this morning. As Nigerians await the results of the presidential election, accusations have begun to fly among the parties who had always had quite a number of complaints to heave upon INEC. One such is the People's Democratic Party's list of accusations against the All Progressives Congress and President Muhammadu Buhari about states in which they are purportedly forcing INEC to manipulate results. PDP National Publicity Secretary Kola Ologbodiyan said in a statement the party was aware that the Buhari presidency was pressuring INEC to change results in Rivers, Kaduna, Nasarawa, Kogi, Bauchi, Cross River, Borno, Yobe and Edo states and some others. He's charging APC with a plan to allocate fictitious figures. He gave no clue as to how PDP came about the information that led to its charge. Meanwhile, the order to wait for official announcement of results by INEC has not stopped the presidency from reacting to stories and rumors that Senate President Bukola Saraki has lost his Senate seat. ANN is not announcing any result, but a tweet by presidential aide Bashir Ahmed congratulated the APC candidate Dr. Yaya Oloriegbe, who has been rumored to win the seat. Posting a photograph of Oloriegbe and Buhari, Ahmed wrote, Senate President Senator Bukola Saraki has lost his re-election bid to the Red Chamber to the ruling All Progressives Congress candidate Ibrahim Oloriegbe in all the 4 local councils in the senatorial district. End quote. Ahmad also said in his tweets that APC has been victorious in Ekiti State. He stated the party had picked up 3 Senate and 6 rep seats in the state. Now the general elections has entered its National Collation Center stage after millions of Nigerians went to the polls on Saturday to cast their ballots to elect national leaders of their choice. Despite the vote being moved by a week from its original date, some delays were reported at various polling stations across the country. The 2 leading contenders in the presidential race, incumbent Muhammadu Buhari and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, both cast their ballots early in the morning. The voting was scheduled to begin at 8 a.m., but there were delays in a number of polling stations. At a polling unit in Lagos, voting was put off by 3 hours after officials discovered they ran out of indelible ink.
We've been here since about 6 a.m. and still nothing has started, no accreditation has started. They said there's no ink.
Ink? Are you telling me you are going to the school with books and your pen is not with you? Ink to thumbprint is not here.
Ink was later delivered and voting began, and since the process started rather late, not everybody was able to vote on time. In other places, card readers' failures also forced officials to verify voters' identities manually, while in other cases, electoral supplies went very late. But at the polling station in Victoria Island in Lagos, officials said despite a few challenges, the process had been smooth.
It's very, very good. It's very, and many people is responding.
Turnout is very encouraging and very peaceful. The atmosphere is very friendly.
In some cases, voters turned up at the wrong polling station.
There were a number of people that did not know their polling stations.
their polling units. It will do if this is publicized even more before the exercise.
Initial fears of voter apathy appears to have been allayed with huge voter lines witnessed across the country. Focus had now shifted to Abuja and the collation and declaration of results by INEC, a process the commission began this morning. Austin Tam George, a political expert, has called for strengthened efforts to deal with major issues facing Nigeria in terms of education and unemployment. Tam George is Executive Director of the Institute of Communication and Corporate Studies in Lagos. He said in a television interview that voters had on their minds major issues regarding poor education and unemployment as they cast their ballot on Saturday.
We've had very serious developmental challenges in this country. We have, for instance, in the education sector, over 13 million children out of school, the highest number of children out of school in the world. We also have very serious, very significant infrastructural deficits across the country.
He said that voters want a powerful leadership to address these urgent problems when talking about voters who had been frustrated by the delayed elections.
Nigerians expect a very purposeful and focused leadership that can tackle this. We also have a significant unemployment rate, over 28%, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. These are very serious existential issues for Nigerians.
The votes are being counted after an estimated 72 million Nigerians headed to the polls on Saturday to elect a new president and 469 members of the National Assembly. Coming up, African stories. Sudan President al-Bashir declares one-year state of emergency for Chauvet's cabinet. And later, international Venezuelan aid protests claim 5 lives. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Looking for some Disney magic but don't know where to find it? We've got a magical solution just for you. Simply go to DisneyNigeria.mobi and get an exciting selection of games, short videos, wallpapers, shareables, and more. Explore a whole new world of Disney on your mobile, tablet, or PC. For just 200 Naira monthly, you get to enjoy the fun to infinity and beyond. SMS Disney to 11006 to begin. Terms and conditions apply. This service is only available to MTN customers.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. Although no official announcement has been made regarding poll results in Senegal's presidential election held on Sunday, Prime Minister Mohamed Dione says provincial tallies have given incumbent President Macky Sall 57% victory in 13 of 14 regions in the country. He said this gives the president a mandate to restart his work, putting the country on the path towards development. But opposition leaders say there was no winner in Sunday's poll. Idrissa Seck, one of the main candidates, says a second round is unavoidable. The youth movement that backed the president in 2012 has condemned the prime minister's announcement. And more than 6.5 million Senegalese citizens had registered to vote. If the claim is correct, Sall will begin a second and final term in office. And if no candidate has won the required votes, the 2 candidates with the most votes go to a second round to be held later in March. This should be clear after the Electoral Commission's official announcement of results expected by Friday. Senegal has had 3 peaceful transfers of power since gaining independence from France in 1960. Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir has declared a year-long state of emergency all over Sudan and dissolved central and state governments after more than 2 months of popular protest in the country. The decisions came after al-Bashir met on Friday with members of the Coordination Committee of the National Dialogue, state governors, and the members of the leadership office of the ruling National Congress Party. Al-Bashir said tight economic measures should be adopted by a new government, adding that it would task an executive working team with running the government until the process of dialogue is completed. The president also urged the parliament to postpone constitutional amendments that would allow him to seek a new term. Many cities, including the capital, Khartoum, have witnessed popular protests since December over deteriorating economic conditions, cash shortages and price hikes on basic commodities including bread and fuel. South Africa's largest opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, has launched its manifesto for May's general elections. At the event on Saturday, the party pledged to create jobs and set up an anti-corruption unit, a blight that is perceived as a weakness for the ANC after years of rule by former President Jacob Zuma. The opposition faces a resurgent ruling African National Congress under new President Cyril Ramaphosa, who has also vowed to root out graft and boost economic growth. Democratic Alliance leader Moses Maimane told supporters at the launch of the manifesto in Johannesburg that his party would have zero tolerance for corruption. He also said corrupt politicians should spend 15 years in jail. The first summit of the European Union and the League of Arab States opened in Egypt on Sunday, with attendees expressing the desire for enhanced partnership and cooperation between the two regions. More than 50 European and Arab countries are participating in the two-day summit co-chaired by Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and European Council President Donald Tusk. The talks holding in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh are aimed at boosting cooperation and trade and addressing regional conflicts.
We hope that the summit manages to focus on our partnership when it comes to economic relations, when it comes to our common work, for instance, on Palestine and peace between Israel and Palestine and between Israel and the Arab world, revitalizing the two-state solution, but also a common approach, I hope, on the conflict in Syria, on the conflict in Yemen, to try and have a full implementation of the Stockholm agreements, and a common work on Libya.
Uganda's Ministry of Works and Transport has said the country is set to put its national airline carrier back in action as test flights for the new aircrafts in its fleet are underway in Montreal, Canada. The first aircraft for the revived Uganda Airlines is expected to arrive in the country in several weeks. 4 Bombardier planes will form the core of the national carrier's regional fleet. The country has also sent 8 pilots to Canada for training ahead of the comeback of Uganda's airlines.
We rely on Kenya Airways and others. So that money we are giving away is going to be saved. Number 2, in regard to employment, our own people are going to be employed.
The carrier was liquidated in 2001. The Uganda government says the airline, remembered as the Flying Crane, will start with flights to Nairobi, followed by Kigali, Johannesburg and Juba. There are also plans to open up additional routes to Mombasa, Khartoum, Mogadishu and Kinshasa. Authorities say Uganda National Airline will be supported through a public-private partnership, adding that revival will significantly boost the country's global trade and facilitate tourism. When we return, international news. 5 die in Venezuela's 8 protests on violence. And later, sports. FIFA strips Peru of 2019 Under-17 World Cup hosting right.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me,
you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In international stories, tens of thousands of Venezuelans have taken to the streets of the country's capital in what opponents of Nicolas Maduro hope will prove the turning point for the country's slide into authoritarianism and economic ruin. Venezuela's president is facing an opposition as well as increasing international hostility from the right-wing government of the U.S., Brazil, and Colombia. The protest followed 2 nights of violent demonstrations in working-class neighborhoods of Caracas, once bastions of support for the government, and the apparent foiling of an armed uprising by members of the National Guard. Guaidó, the new leader of the opposition, held National Assembly and self-proclaimed president of Venezuela, repeated calls for members of the security forces to withdraw their support for Maduro. More than 100 soldiers had defected to support Juan Guaidó once the violence began. With just 33 days until Britain leaves the European Union, Prime Minister Theresa May has again delayed a parliamentary vote on the Brexit deal in a desperate effort to buy more time to revise its terms to Brussels. May said she would return to Brussels on Tuesday for more talks. She said the vote will likely hold by mid-March. The decision on the issue could increase the split in May's government, and lawmakers could take matters into their own hands this week by coming up with amendments to a neutral motion on Brexit. This could force the government to delay triggering Article 50 or holding a second referendum. 154 persons have died in India and more than 200 others hospitalized after drinking tainted alcohol. The victims consumed unregulated moonshine, known locally as country-made liquor, in the northeast state of Assam. 34 suspects have been arrested for their involvement in the supply of the legal alcohol. Police say others associated with bootlegging in the area are also being questioned. Authorities say those who drank the liquor contracted methyl alcohol poisoning from methanol that was added to the mixture. Now to international business. U.S. President Donald Trump has said he would delay a planned tariff increase on $200 billion worth of Chinese imported goods after substantial government was made in trade talks with Beijing over the weekend. Trump also said on Sunday he planned to hold a summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida to sign a deal between the world's 2 largest economies. He says progress has been made on a series of divisive areas, including intellectual property protection, technology transfers, agriculture, services, and currency. Now to entertainment. Lots of intrigue on Sunday as the 91st Academy Awards program in Hollywood as motion picture Green Book took home the top prize despite controversy over the film and the conduct of its creators. The movie was considered an underdog headed into the ceremony, but it defeated strong competition from Roma, A Star is Born, and Bohemian Rhapsody. The film tells the story of a working-class Italian-American bouncer who is employed as the driver of an African-American classical pianist on the tour of venues in the South during the 60s. Green Book received 5 Oscar nominations and won 3, including Best Picture. In the weeks before Sunday's Academy Awards, Green Book was at the center of a surge of criticisms. Still ahead, sport. FIFA strips Peru of 2019 Under-17 World Cup hosting rights. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband.
Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left, yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back. This is CNN News. In sport now, FIFA has stripped Peru of Under-17 World Cup hosting rights because of concerns over adequate infrastructure. The decision was taken by the Bureau of the FIFA Council, which features the 6 regional confederation presidents and FIFA president Gianni Infantino. The tournament was scheduled for October after Peru was aware that the competition last June, but FIFA said it found a number of organizational and infrastructure challenges linked to the event delivery following various inspection visits. The World Football Body says it is currently evaluating different alternatives concerning the appointment of a new host country. Nigeria goalkeeper Francis Uzoho has won his appeal against the one-match suspension imposed by the Cyprus Football Association for playing with an invalid health certificate. Uzoho was handed the ban and a fine of €1,000 after the CFA upheld an appeal by Apollon Limassol, who claimed the 20-year-old played with unauthorized paperwork when making his debut for Anorthosis Famagusta in a game between the two sides earlier this month. A very particular clue wasn't silent about it. And that's CNN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, cnnafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CNN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a pleasant evening.